some memories of the late 1800s, a short hop back in time. These are not my memories, but they could easily have been those of my grandparents. I found them in an uncredited article from 1968. So let us begin. The memories begin. I came from a family of 10. We had everything we needed, but anything extra we either made for ourselves or we did without. Toys such as skates, scooters, wagons, sleds, etc. Our older brothers made from whatever they could find on the nearby trash pile. That trash pile was a never-ending source of surprises. Whenever we were out of something to do, we would go rummaging through that trash pile, and what wonderful treasures awaited us there. I have very vivid memories of the time that our house burned down. We lived within the city limits, and there is what we called the hook and ladders. But that was in the days of dirt streets. Yes, even in our cities, we had dirt streets. And the fire was in the spring, and the fire department horses got stuck in the mud and never made it to our house, which burned to the ground. And those were the days when neighbors were really neighbors. Then there was the ritual called the Saturday night bath. The big wooden washtub was placed in the middle of the kitchen floor, and water was heated in a copper wash boiler on the wood burning kitchen range. I can't remember if there was any particular order in which we were all scrubbed. I do remember the water was not changed, though, between individuals, just more added as it cooled off. Saturday evening was always a big event. Shoes had to be shined, clothes laid out, and things in general made ready for Sunday morning. Everyone, both large and small, had to be spick and span for Sunday morning. In our living room, we had a large iron heating stove with a nickel ring around the top and bottom. We would gather around that stove in the evenings, and Mother would read to us from the Grimm's fairy tales or the Arabian Nights. We used to beg her to read Bluebeard over and over, but us younger children would cry and hide under her apron. Mother used to recite to us Little Orphan Annie came to our house to stay, and when she would get to, and the goblins will get you. And once more, thinking of those goblins, we huddled under Mom's apron for security. Mother used to keep a cow, and how we would like to slip down to the cellar and sneak some of that thick yellow cream off the crocks of the milk. There was always plenty left with which butter was made, and we tried our best to get out of stomping that dasher up and down to churn the butter, especially in the winter when the cream was cold. We would stomp and stomp for what would seem like hours. And sometimes, after a long time, Mother would heat the poker red hot in the stove, then stick it into the churn, and she said it would chase away the witch out of the cream so that it would turn to butter. And how we loved that butter spread on the crust of a warm loaf of bread right out of the oven. Mother baked 8 to 10 loaves every other day, and even at that, it seemed that we were always out of bread. One summer we lived in the country, and one day my sister and a neighbor girl cut some of the fringe off our surrey to put on some doll clothes that they were making. And would you believe it, the dresses were made from the bottom of a lace curtain from the spare bedroom. After all, Mother would never know, as the curtains hung down behind the bed. These same two girls gathered eggs to make mud pies. They were very original girls, and when I think of them, I wonder if children are more imaginative these days. We all enjoyed the winter. We lived kind of on a hill. The streets sloped down towards the center of town. There were no cars, so coasting on the dirt streets was quite safe. And once more, the boys would rummage through the trash pile for whatever they could find to make a bobsled. They would let us girls help smooth the runners and rub them good with beeswax. We could coast for several blocks, and the older boys would haul the younger ones back up. And sometimes the boys would hitch several sleds together, which was great fun, but dangerous, and going around the corners, and they would often upset, and sometimes somebody would get hurt. When the snow was deep, the big boys would go before us on the way to school and drag their feet to make a path for us to walk in. When the sledding was good, the boys would hunt in the trash pile for old washboards, dishpans, or anything that we could sit on, and we'd coast them down the hill. The boys would also hunt the pile over for pieces of metal to sell for a few pennies to the junk dealer who lived on the way to school. Then they would go to the neighborhood grocery and get a dill pickle, and we'd each get a bite, or a sucker, and we'd each get a lick. Near the Near the road to the school in the spring was a swamp, and we loved to stop and catch pollywogs and take them home and put them in an old jar and watch for them to grow legs. Our father loved nature, and every Sunday he would take us for a ride in the country. And if we chanced to pass an apple orchard, he would stop the horse, climb the fence, and get each of us an apple. And if it was autumn and he saw a hickory nut or chestnut tree, he would help us over the fence, and we would gather a few nuts. Neither we nor the farmer who owned the trees thought we were stealing. Well, that's the extent of the article, and even though I did not grow up at that point in time, it brought back memories of my own childhood. Now, can you imagine today's kids going to an apple tree or gathering nuts for snacks? And I guess gummy worms don't grow on trees. And as I go for walks right now in June, the sidewalks are stained from currant berries, a real abundance. And though awesome for eating, they all go to waste. Nobody uses them. Yes, times have indeed changed, and I cannot say that life has changed towards the better. Processed foods and the tendency or the technology have truly taken us down roads that are not natural, especially with GMOs. Well, thanks for stopping by, and God bless. Please be sure to like and subscribe.